In a major move, the U.S. government has announced a massive 25% tariff on all cars not made in the United States. We'll listen to President Trump make the announcement and see how Elon Musk and Tesla executives like Lars Morvey responded with their thoughts. Make no mistakes about it, this is going to shake up the entire auto industry globally. We'll show you which car companies will make it and which won't survive. This is a very important show with a lot of critical information to share. Spoiler alert, Tesla's about to dominate big time. I got Larry Goldberg with me. Welcome, Larry.
Thanks for having me here.
This is a very important show. It looks like it's real, looks like it's permanent. Of course, it could just be bluster or some sort of negotiation, kind of scenario, but this is what has happened. Trump has imposed 25% tariff on all cars not made in the U.S. Some people are thinking Tesla could benefit the most on this. We'll walk us through very carefully what do we mean by that. Let's take a look at
is a 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States. If they're made in the United States, there's absolutely no tariff. We start off with a 2.5% base, which is what we were at, and we go to 25%. And basically, as you know, and as you've been seeing, not reporting as accurately as it should be reported because it's a massive story. Business is coming back to the United States so that they...
Okay, I sort of cut it off there. But this is how Elon responded to this. He said, to be clear, this will affect the price of parts in Tesla cars that come from other countries. The cost impact is not trivial because there's articles like this that are being written now. Tariffs could give Tesla and Musk a leg up on rivals. But he, keeps reiterating, saying, important to note that Tesla is not unscathed here. The tariff impact on Tesla is still significant. You have Jeff Lutz kind of doing an analysis on this. He said GM, Ford, Stellantis, Chrysler, Jeep, and Dodge, Hyundai, Toyota, Honda will all see 25% tariffs for vehicles made outside of the U.S. because some of their vehicles are made directly from the U.S. and being imported in. Same for European and Japanese, Korean imports. Tesla, Rivian, and Lucid, 0%. Now, there may be some companies outside of the U.S., components outside of the U.S., Mexico, Canada, that could get hit for Tesla. So it's the parts, not the entire vehicle. We'll know until Tesla says something. So here's a good table to show you that according to this research, 100% of these cars that Tesla makes are made in the U.S. Ford, only 77% of it is made in the U.S., and you can see everyone else is around 50% and even lower. That's a good table. Sawyer now kind of clarified that this tariff is going to go into effect in April 2nd, just a few days from now. About 40% of all new cars sold in the U.S. are imported. So, importing a 25% tariff on all vehicles not made in the U.S., 40% immediately get its tariff. Here's the list that we just showed you. If this remains in place for a long period, the legacy automakers will struggle to adapt quickly, leading to a significant decline in profits. The U.S. is the most profitable country for the auto industry, so it's going to impact the company's overall global kind of situation. Trump said that this is going to be permanent. We'll see how this plays out. So Lars Morvey is a Tesla top executive. He said this is true in all major markets. Tesla has for a long time tried to build the car where it would be sold. He's talking about how Tesla in China is almost all made in China. Tesla's in Europe is almost all made in Europe. Hard to be true always, but also can't accept not trying. Just makes sense. They've been doing this. They planned for this. They knew it was coming. Jeff Lutz said this is extremely difficult to do, but best practice in terms of network design. I mean, yeah, good job for Tesla to have seen this ahead of time. Lars responded to Jeff saying supply chain at Tesla is next level, Jeff. Yeah, what are you thinking about? And this, by the way, is just another graphic says where U.S. autos come from. 54% come from the U.S. The rest, it's looking like it's coming from Mexico and Korea and Japan and all that. So all these guys will be affected.
So there's more unknown about these tariffs than is known. The question is, do the tariffs apply to content that may not be from the US? I'm assuming not for the moment, just from the words that President Trump used. It's quite possible that if the car is assembled from more than 75% of US sourced parts, that they won't be subject to the tariff, or that the tariff will be applied to Or the other hand, it could be the tariff is applied to non-U.S. parts. These are unknown. I haven't seen any analysis that's been able to pin those things down. It's also very good to know that there's a relatively high percentage of parts in the other countries, in the other continents' car factories. So China has probably the highest local content of all the factories, and Europe is somewhat lower, perhaps than China, but perhaps higher than the United States, just given the depth of the supply chain in Germany. So I'm guessing that there will be tariffs imposed by the continent, by Europe, and tariffs imposed by China that are equivalent to the US tariffs. So we'll probably see some rise in the price of Teslas, but because Tesla is in this very prime position of manufacturing the cars where they're sold, Tesla will be the clear winner, whatever the final tariffs really are. The question is, winner of what? In other words, to what degree are car sales going to be depressed in general by the impact of these tariffs? You know, Gary Black pointed out to me in the exchange of tweets that when the Smoot-Hawley law was created in the 1930s, it reduced global trade by almost 30%. If that happens here, there's hard times for everybody. I don't think that's going to happen. I actually did an exercise with Grok comparing the 30s to now, and there are huge differences both in the types of tariffs being proposed and in the situation of trade right now. In 1930, America accounted for a huge proportion of international trade, and our exports were a huge percentage of our GDP. It's exactly reversed right now. Exactly reversed. We import a heck of a lot more than we export. And tariff walls against the United States apply in every continent. Asia and Europe and even Africa have got higher tariff walls on us than we on them. How this happened is a long story. I'll be delving into it. It's a really bad story. Trump is right on the subject. Whether his tactics turn out to be successful or not, that's above my pay grade. I don't know what's going to happen. But for sure, it has to happen because we can't carry on with us having this huge disparity in our trading conditions. And it's not all on tariffs. There are many, many ways that Europe, Asia, Africa block our exported products, but have open sesame to our markets. So, long story short, time will tell.
Yeah, this is the table that Jeff showed us at the Cyberball show that we just said on Thursday. And he basically showed that in terms of free trade, right? Is there free trade between all these G20 countries? You can see that the U.S. actually does not, kind of the first bar is supposed to be tariff rates, like what do the country tariffs, and then the other light blue is supposed to be the non-tariff barriers. These are things that, like regulations, rules of origin, quotas, things that kind of like just limit you being able to import a car into that country. Argentina is crazy. But U.S. is like, so basically there's an imbalance is what this is trying to show.
But let me tell you, this is only part of the story. This is autos. Way beyond autos in almost every single...
This is not autos, I don't think.
Oh, this is all trade?
I think so, yeah. This is in general trade barriers.
Okay.
Of course, yeah. So, but you're right. I mean, obviously. So, of course, if U.S. did implement the 25% tariff, we're going to go like boom over here. So, I guess let's break this down, Larry. I wanted to ask you then.
Could you just go back to that schedule again, please? I want to point out that Canada and Mexico, our so-called partners, are as bad as the rest, almost as bad as the rest of the
Yes.
world.
Yeah. They make it as difficult as possible to import, even though we're partners. Okay, so Larry, let's break this down. There's a couple things I wanted to ask you first, right? So first is, do you think that that Trump is just using this as a negotiation tactic? Okay, because you go and say, I'm going to do this April 2nd, which is literally days away. We're going to tariff 25% of all imports of all new cars. That I don't think is a negotiation tactic. We're doing it. But the other one is supplies and parts. We're going to give you a month, right? A month. I mean, that's not enough time. For companies to really adjust, to really make it happen. If you really want them to build factories in the U.S., you need to give them years. If you want them to change their supply chain, you need to give them years. Is he just doing this and then we'll back down later? Or is this, doesn't matter if you die? Because some of these guys will die, don't you think?
I'm certain that if he doesn't back down on at least the parts part, yes. And even if he doesn't, I mean, I can't even see how Mercedes or BMW will be able to sell another car. I mean, they basically import kits into this country and then put those kits together. It doesn't seem possible that they. Anyway, the bottom line is, this has to be a negotiating tactic because it is such a huge blow. I mean, I don't know how much thought has gone into it. I don't know how much work has gone into it, but man, this is a sea change, and so it's very important that he does refine this. And if he doesn't, I think it will have a very serious impact.
Well, so if it is real and it's permanent and he does this, how are car companies going to kind of react, and who will survive?
I think car sales will drop by a third in the United States. It'll drop from a 16 million car market to a 10 million car market overnight until things become sorted out. And I'm not sure how much it's going to recover. And if it does recover, it's going to recover in a different form. Even Tesla's going to be hit very hard by it. Look, nobody has to buy a new car anymore. Cars last a very long time. A lot of buying is optional. But you increase the price of a car by an average of 20%, 25%, which is what's going to happen. Tesla may not go up by 25%, it may only go up by 10%. But and many of these car companies have to reduce that by eating their margins. Some of them can't afford to. So we'll see bankruptcies, and this is all if he doesn't modify. So we'll see bankruptcies. Stellantis probably will go bankrupt. Some of the smaller foreign players will have to withdraw from the US market. I think Korean companies are in serious jeopardy.
Yeah, except for Hyundai, the rest are.
It's possible. It's possible. Well, Hyundai and so it's one company. I mean,
Yeah, Toyota might survive, but Nissan and
Toyota will certainly survive, but Nissan is toast.
Yeah.
And Volkswagen, I don't know what happens to Volkswagen. I really don't know what happens to Volkswagen. That's serious. So that leads me to think that these countries, Japan, Europe, have to come to the table. And when they come to the table, it's not going to be about cars. It's going to be about markets. You don't negotiate markets overnight. The WTO took like years to resolve. So you don't do this overnight. So there's going to be this enormous, disjoint in global trade. Sweet-Hartley, when they passed that, took the markets down by huge chunks and cost us global trade for almost a decade. It could happen this time. Or, Trump could emerge victorious, as he often seems to do in these negotiations, and we could go back to business as usual with an improved situation for the US.
Yeah, it's a double whammy though, right? Because these car companies, like you've been reporting, I've been doing it, where the European and American, they used to have a huge presence in China. That was a big deal for them because they were making so much money there. And then the last several years, they've no matter what they did, they first tried their own badge, that didn't sell their cars, and then they tried to put a Chinese badge on their car, that didn't sell. And so then all of a sudden they're like lost their market share there. Now, if they lose market share in the US, I don't think they can survive at this point, many of these companies.
No, I
And
think that's true.
yeah,
I think that's true. And, so Europe has had a double whammy because they lost the Chinese market and they lost the Russian market. The Russian market
yeah,
obviously was much, much smaller, a
yeah.
fraction indeed of the Chinese market. They can't afford to lose the American market now. I mean, they can't. And they can't afford to let the Americans in. I mean, they've got to hold those trade barriers up against America as best they can. The United States has, for the last 3 decades, been the most open market to all international, to all countries, the most open market in the world. And they've been faced with the most closed markets in the world. And this president's turning that upside down. That may lead to, stagnation globally or a very, very violent change in the structure of international trade. But it had to end. It had to end at some point because we were basically becoming embedded. So who knows? He's
Yeah.
thrown the dice, and the dice are about to hit the table.
So the other thing I'm concerned about is the way Tesla is going to be viewed out of this. There's going to be a huge group of people. They'll say, "Look what Elon did. Elon worked with Trump. He told Trump to kill these car companies, and look what they did. And then Tesla survives." But the reality is,
How much worse is that than they currently saying about him? I
he is
mean,
an right,
I mean, he's been called a Nazi.
right.
He's been said to have Nazi salutes. I mean, you can't get any worse than this, and you can't, what you're going to do. I mean, what you're going to do.
But the reality is that Tesla, and that's why you see Lars talking about this, they built their factories to be 100% locally sourced for the American factory, the German factory, and the Chinese factory, just in case
Well,
one of the
not
countries says,
not
no, but
100%.
I mean, yeah,
As
not
far
100%,
as
but,
possible,
as
far
far
as
as possible,
physically possible. Yeah.
in case the country steps up and says, we want a tariff war. That's what they were preparing for. So even if there is a tariff war, Tesla is the least affected compared to the others. Whereas the others, they just fell for this whole, I'll build my cars in Mexico. Even the Chinese, by the way, right? They were building all these factories in Mexico, thinking that they were going to just bring the cars in. And boy, isn't it today? Aren't we all lucky that Elon stepped up and put a kibosh to the Giga Mexico? He
Yeah.
kind of foretold it, didn't he?
Yeah,
Unless
I
people
mean,
will say,
his ability to see the future is quite stunning. I mean, it is really stunning. It's hard to actually describe the number of times he's foreseen something in the future that has triggered a particular action. I mean, look at the work that he did in getting into China. And think about the timing of that, and think about the timing of Berlin, and think about the timing of canceling Mexico. I mean, it's amazing, just amazing.
yeah.
And that's
So
just on
this,
the issue of factories.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cars made in America, this made in America incentive, that was something that Jeff Lutz was talking about quite often, where yes, they might get rid of the $7,500 incentive for EVs, but they'll replace it with a made in America incentive. This is not quite a made in America incentive, but it's very similar to it. So Trump is saying that he's trying to make interest payments on car loans tax deductible. So if you buy a new car and you've got a car loan on it, you can take those interest payments and tax deduct that. We're going to have growth in the auto industry nobody's ever seen. This is like at the same time they did the tariff. So let's listen to what he says.
If we can, if you borrow money to buy a car, you're allowed to deduct interest payments for purposes of income tax, but only if the car is made in America. So if the car is made in America, you get a loan, you can deduct the interest. That's a big saving. A lot of people in that part of the world in terms of buying cars. A lot of them don't think in terms of deductions. People that think in terms of deductions are very wealthy people, but people are going to start understanding what a good deduction is all about. So when you get a loan to buy a car, and I think it's going to pay for itself. I don't think there's any cost. I think you're going to have so many cars built, but you're only going to get that deduction of interest if the car is made in the United States of America. So I'm going to sign this, and Mike, I hope you can get that, because I think it's going to be amazing in terms of the number of cars that are going to be made because of it. And I want to thank Howard Lutnick.
All right, so that is, Tesla's. You might lose. So we don't know yet the $7,500 incentive for electric vehicles, but Teslas are made in America. So now you're going to get this ability to deduct that. Is that a big deal? Do you think that will turn into real sales like he thinks it will?
Yeah, it will, because, I mean, there's going to be a lot of games played, because a lot of buyers of cars in the lower income levels, it's not helpful to them to deduct for tax purposes. So what's going to happen is that people for whom that tax deduction is meaningful are going to buy the cars and then lease them to I don't know. I mean, we'd have to see the legislation, but remember, this is going to require legislation. This can't happen. I don't believe it can happen by way of a presidential mandate. So I think this is going to be a while in coming, and whenever the tax code is involved, it becomes very, very complicated in the negotiations and how it evolves. And so we'll see a lot of water to flow under the bridge before that happens.
All right. Oh, so I mean, I just see very good news for Tesla. Not that we needed the car company to be destroyed, because that is like the last thing. I just don't think that that's what's going to happen. Trump is not going to just let car companies die as one of his legacies. This is just a negotiation. He'll come in and give them, extensions, exemptions.
But unfortunately, you're not the president. I have learned that what Trump says is not necessarily what Trump does, and so I think there's a lot to what you say.
Yeah.
But this is really big stakes. This is big stakes poker. I don't think he's played stakes anything close to this yet in his life, and so this is big stakes poker. Everything matters. Gary Black is, he's actually shown the dangers. He's drawn the dangers. I would read what he said. But I think that Trump is playing a game. He's got really brilliant advisors. I trust Lutnick. And so time will tell. Time will tell. I'm hopeful that they'll use this to the best possible effect, and that you're right.
But I just don't like it that, and again, like you said, it doesn't matter, but that Elon and Tesla is going to be like, oh, the only reason they survived was because the government stepped in and his buddy with Trump, and that's what killed the car industry. No, they were going to die anyways.
Don't worry about it. They're going to find whatever to say about him. He does this drug, or he's this, or he's that. And he doesn't invent anything, and he doesn't run the company, and he is not an engineer. That everything that's been said about him has been, everything could be said about him has been said, and anything that can be said about him will be said about him. What's to worry about? He doesn't.
And then now we're getting a very good ADAS, right? The full self-driving software. Even if robotaxi takes slow to get adopted, the cars that Tesla makes are going to have this super, new feature that lets it be safer. I mean, you and I drive it all the time. You drive it across the country all the time. And the way it is today, it is already such a really good feature for people. It's just much more comfortable driving, and it's only going to get better and better and better, to the point where people are realizing this is a real safety feature and a real added value feature. So then you have that on top of the issues, and then the car price. it's good news for Tesla. I just cannot see car companies surviving through this kind of like tectonic changes
From your
here.
lips. From your lips to God's ears.
Okay, so this is a big deal. Yeah, this is great. Thank you, and Larry, for the fun conversation, but very important. This is the biggest thing, like you said, one of the biggest things that's actually happened. Let's see if it was just a negotiation tactic or he's going to come through with it. And if he does,
And
auto industries change
whatever
forever.
whatever he ends up doing, whatever he ends up negotiating, let's hope for the best in the outcome, because it's very important. It's far more important than the price of Tesla shares. It's
Exactly.
important to the lifeblood of the United States.
But I mean, it's not just,
And the
it's
world.
global, right? These auto companies need to be global in
Absolutely
order
right.
to,
Absolutely right.
and if they die, it's like every market is going to change. And
High
guess who's
stakes.
going to succeed
High
better,
stakes.
even more so? The Chinese automakers, except that they still won't be able to go global. They won't go into the US, but they're not going to be as affected as these guys are. So, okay.
Look, if there's a global recession, China is the biggest loser of all.
Oh, good point. That's right.
So the complexities of this are gigantic. Anyway.
Thank you so much, Larry. Follow him on his X account at Tesla Larry. Thanks, everybody. Bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.